Dr. Valerie Rhodes stared at the holographic message floating above her desk, its soft blue glow illuminating her cramped office at the Xenolinguistic Institute. The offer seemed too good to be true. Full access to newly discovered alien artifacts, unlimited research funding, and complete autonomy over her work. The catch: she had to leave Earth within 48 hours. The message bore the distinctive logo of the Helix Corporation, humanity's leading force in extraterrestrial research. They'd never shown interest in her work before. Her theories about universal linguistic patterns in alien communications were considered too experimental, too risky for mainstream academia. What changed? She muttered, running her fingers through her silver-streaked dark hair. The hologram shifted, displaying classified images of strange symbols carved into what appeared to be crystalline structures. Her heart raced. The patterns matched her theoretical models perfectly. A gentle chime interrupted her thoughts. Dr. Rhodes, the lab's AI announced. Director Julian Blackwood of Helix Corporation is requesting immediate entrance. Valerie straightened her worn research coat. Grant access. The man who entered moved with the calculated precision of someone used to commanding attention. His dark skin contrasted sharply with the stark white of his corporate uniform, and his eyes held an intensity that made Valerie instinctively sit straighter. Dr. Rhodes, Blackwood's voice carried the weight of authority. I trust you've reviewed our offer. I have questions, Valerie replied, gesturing to the holographic symbols. These artifacts, they're not from any known alien civilization, are they? Blackwood's smile didn't reach his eyes. Correct. We discovered them 3 months ago in the Kepler 186 system. They're active, Dr. Rhodes, responding to human presence in ways we can't explain. Your research suggests you might understand why. Valerie's fingers traced the air near the holographic symbols, following their intricate patterns. These match the universal cognitive patterns I theorized. If I'm right, they're not just writing. They're a bridge between consciousness itself. Precisely why we need you. Blackwood placed a small crystal on her desk. It pulsed with an inner light, matching her heartbeat. This is a sample. Study it. But know that if you accept our offer, there's no turning back. What we found, it changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the universe. The crystal's light seemed to reach out to her, creating patterns that mirrored her thoughts. This was everything she'd worked for. Validation of her theories. Proof that consciousness itself had universal patterns that transcended species barriers. The transport leaves tomorrow at dawn, Blackwood said, moving toward the door. Everything you need to know is encoded in the crystal. Just remember, Dr. Rhodes, some doors, once opened, can never be closed. After he left, Valerie spent hours studying the crystal, watching as it responded to her thoughts, creating complex patterns that seemed to dance at the edge of comprehension. Her entire career had led to this moment. The symbols suggested something far beyond simple alien artifacts. They hinted at a technology that didn't just communicate across species barriers, but transcended them entirely. As dawn approached, Valerie packed her few belongings, her mind made up. Her small apartment, filled with books and research notes, would be maintained by the Institute. On her desk, she left a single note, following the patterns. They lead somewhere important. The transport ship waited at the desert launch facility, its sleek form silhouetted against the rising sun. Blackwood stood at the boarding ramp, his white uniform now replaced by practical spacer gear. Last chance to back out, Dr. Rhodes, he said as she approached. Valerie clutched her bag containing the crystal, which had grown warmer throughout the night, its patterns increasingly complex. No backing out, she replied, her voice firm. Whatever these artifacts are, they chose to reveal themselves now to us. I need to know why. As the ship broke atmosphere, Valerie watched Earth shrink below them. The crystal in her bag pulsed stronger, and for a moment, she swore she felt something. A presence, vast and ancient, reaching out across the void. What she'd thought was just a job offer was about to take her on a journey beyond anything in human experience. In the ship's observation lounge, she spread out her research materials, the crystal casting ethereal patterns across her notes. Each pulse seemed to carry meaning now, fragments of thoughts just beyond her grasp. She was no longer just studying alien linguistics. She was about to become part of the conversation itself. The research facility on Kepler 186 loomed before them, a sprawling complex of interconnected domes beneath a rust-colored sky. As their shuttle descended, Valerie noticed how the structure seemed to pulse with the same inner light as her crystal, which had grown increasingly active during their approach. "Welcome to Project Nexus," Blackwood announced as they passed through decontamination. "You'll understand soon why we required absolute secrecy." The main research chamber took Valerie's breath away. Suspended in a containment field at the center of the vast room was what appeared to be a floating city in miniature, constructed entirely of the same crystalline material as her sample. But it wasn't the structure's beauty that made her gasp. It was the way it responded to her presence, entire sections lighting up as she entered. "It's never done that before," a voice said from behind her. Valerie turned to find a tall, willowy figure emerging from the shadows. The being's silver-tinted skin and elongated features marked them clearly as non-human, yet there was something hauntingly familiar about their presence. "Dr. Rhodes, meet Theron," Blackwood said, "our resident expert from the Lumini civilization. They arrived 6 months ago, following the same patterns you discovered." Theron's iridescent eyes studied Valerie with obvious curiosity. "Your theories about universal consciousness patterns, they mirror our own research perfectly. Too perfectly to be coincidence." The crystal in Valerie's pocket pulsed strongly, resonating with similar crystals she now noticed embedded in Theron's silver skin. The floating city structure responded, creating complex geometric patterns that danced between them. "The artifacts," Valerie breathed, understanding dawning. "They're not just communication devices, are they? They're some kind of neural interface." More than that, Theron moved closer, their movements fluid and graceful. "We believe they're keys, left behind by an ancient civilization, one that seeded both our species with certain capabilities that only activate when we interact." Blackwood cleared his throat. "We've detected identical structures on 17 different worlds, all dormant until now. Something is awakening them, Dr. Rhodes. Something tied to the growing connection between our species." The floating city suddenly erupted in brilliant patterns, responding to their conversation. Valerie felt a strange sensation, as if her consciousness was expanding beyond her physical form. Beside her, Theron gasped, their crystalline implants glowing brightly. "Neural bridge initiating," an automated voice announced. "Unexpected pattern convergence detected." This wasn't supposed to happen yet. Blackwood started forward, but an invisible barrier sprang up, isolating Valerie and Theron within a sphere of shifting light. The sensation of expanded consciousness intensified. Valerie could feel Theron's thoughts brushing against her own, not in words, but in pure concepts and emotions. The floating city structure pulsed in sync with their merged awareness. "Don't fight it," Theron's voice echoed both in her ears and mind. "The artifacts. They're choosing us, just like they chose our ancestors." Images flooded Valerie's consciousness. Vast ships sailing between stars, carrying the seeds of civilization, crystalline cities that spanned entire planets, and a darkness at the edge of space, something that had forced their creators to hide their greatest achievements within the very DNA of their created children. When the neural bridge finally stabilized, Valerie found herself changed. Her awareness had expanded, encompassing perspectives and sensory inputs that her human brain shouldn't have been able to process. Beside her, Theron seemed similarly transformed, their silver skin now bearing patterns that matched her own brainwaves. "Remarkable," Blackwood breathed, studying the readings on his devices. "The artifacts aren't just interfaces, they're evolutionary catalysts. They're changing you both at a genetic level. We need to contact the other sites." Theron said, their thoughts still mingling with Valerie's. What's happening here? It's just the beginning. The artifacts aren't just awakening. They're preparing us for something. The floating city had transformed as well, now displaying what appeared to be a countdown in an ancient script that both Valerie and Theron could somehow read. Whatever force had created these artifacts, whatever had seeded both their species with hidden potential, was about to reveal its true purpose. As the neural bridge between them stabilized, Valerie realized that what she'd thought was a research opportunity had actually been the first step in an ancient plan, one that would forever alter the course of both their species. The job offer that had brought her across the stars had been merely the opening move in a game planned millennia ago, and they were all just beginning to understand the rules. The alarms began 3 days after the neural bridge formed. Deep space sensors detected massive energy disturbances at the edge of the solar system, ripples in space-time that matched patterns encoded in the artifacts. Valerie and Theron stood in the observation dome, their merged consciousness processing data streams that would have overwhelmed their individual minds. "They're coming back," Theron whispered, their silver skin rippling with complex patterns that matched Valerie's accelerated brainwaves. "The Void Eaters, the force that drove our creators to such desperate measures." Through their shared consciousness, Valerie accessed ancient memories now unlocked by their transformation. Glimpses of a war fought across dimensions, of whole galaxies going dark as an incomprehensible enemy consumed not just matter and energy, but the fundamental laws of physics themselves. "Director Blackwood," Valerie called, her voice carrying harmonics that made the crystalline structures hum in response. "We need to activate the remaining sites. Now." Blackwood, who had been watching their transformation with a mixture of awe and unease, stepped forward. "The other research teams report similar changes. 17 pairs, 17 neural bridges forming. But we still don't understand what these changes are preparing us for." The floating city artifact suddenly projected a new series of images, detailed schematics for technologies beyond anything either human or Lumini science had achieved. But the plans weren't meant for machines. They were modifications to their own evolving biology. "Our creators," Theron explained, their thoughts flowing seamlessly into Valerie's. "They didn't just seed our worlds with life. They encoded the blueprints for their most powerful weapons within our DNA, weapons that could only be activated when our species learned to work together." Through their enhanced perception, they watched as similar transformations occurred at other sites across the galaxy. Each human Lumini pair underwent the same metamorphosis, their consciousness expanding, their bodies adapting to channel energies that defied conventional physics. "The Void Eaters consume reality itself," Valerie said, accessing more of the unlocked genetic memory. "Normal matter, normal physics can't affect them. But we're becoming something else, a bridge between conventional reality and something beyond." The facility's sensors registered massive gravitational distortions approaching the outer planets. The Void Eaters moved like tears in the fabric of space, their very presence causing normal matter to simply cease existing. Blackwood's communication panel erupted with urgent messages from Earth and the Lumini homeworld. Similar anomalies were appearing across known space, ancient enemies awakening in response to the activation of the artifacts. "We're not ready," Blackwood argued, watching as another distant sensor went dark. "These changes, this merger between species, it's barely begun. We need more time." But through their shared consciousness, Valerie and Theron accessed deeper layers of their genetic memory. Time isn't the issue. They spoke in unison, their voices creating interference patterns that made reality itself shiver. "We don't need to be ready. We just need to be willing." The floating city artifact pulsed with newfound energy, responding to their realization. What had seemed like a simple research project, a job offer that Valerie had almost dismissed, had actually been the trigger for an ancient plan millennia in the making. Around them, the facility began to transform, crystalline structures growing and reshaping themselves according to blueprints encoded in their activated DNA. Other research sites reported the same phenomena. The artifacts weren't just tools or weapons, They were seeds, waiting for the right combination of species to unlock their true potential. The neural bridge, Theron said, their silver skin now bearing patterns that perfectly matched the rhythms of Valerie's transformed consciousness. It's not just connecting our minds. It's creating something new. The exact thing our creators designed us to become. Through their expanded awareness, they could feel other pairs across the galaxy reaching the same understanding. Humanity and the Lumini had never been separate species. They were two halves of a whole, carefully crafted to develop independently until they could join together to face an enemy their creators couldn't defeat alone. As the first wave of Void Eaters approached the outer system, Valerie and Theron joined hands, their merged consciousness extending beyond physical reality. The job offer that had started this journey had been part of a plan set in motion before either of their species had achieved consciousness, and now finally, that plan was about to bear fruit. The floating city artifact released a pulse of energy that rippled across space-time itself, a signal to all the other sites. The time for preparation was over. The real transformation was about to begin. The first battle against the Void Eaters revealed the true scope of their creator's design. As the dimensional rifts approached the research facility, Valerie and Theron's merged consciousness expanded beyond physical limitations. Their transformed bodies glowed with internal light, channeling energies that existed between the fabric of reality itself. "Everyone to the safe zones," Blackwood ordered, evacuating the non-transformed personnel. He paused at the doorway, watching as his former research subjects became something beyond human or Lumini understanding. "Whatever you're becoming, make it count." The floating city artifact had merged with the facility's structure, creating a vast crystalline network that amplified their evolved abilities. Through their enhanced perception, Valerie and Theron could see the true nature of their enemy. Beings of pure entropy, holes in reality that consumed everything they touched. "We're receiving signals from the other sites," Theron announced, their voice carrying harmonics that made the crystal lattices sing. "All 17 pairs are ready. The network is complete." Through their shared consciousness, they connected with the other transformed pairs across space. Each combination of human and Lumini had evolved differently, accessing various aspects of their creator's power. Some could manipulate the quantum fabric of space-time. Others could generate fields of pure order that the Void Eaters couldn't penetrate. "This is what we were designed for," Valerie realized, as their combined consciousness accessed deeper layers of genetic memory. Not just to fight them, to understand them, to bridge the gap between existence and entropy. The first Void Eater manifested within the system, its presence causing nearby space to unravel. Normal matter simply ceased to exist around it, breaking down at the quantum level. But when it encountered the fields generated by the transformed pairs, something unprecedented happened. Through their enhanced senses, Valerie and Theron could perceive the fundamental patterns underlying reality itself. The Void Eaters weren't simply destroying existence. They were failed attempts at transcendence, beings that had tried to evolve beyond physical reality, but had become trapped between dimensions. "They're not our enemy," Valerie and Theron spoke in unison, their merged consciousness broadcasting the revelation to all the other pairs. "They're our first test. Our creators didn't design us to destroy them. They designed us to heal them." The crystalline network hummed with power as they channeled their combined abilities. Instead of fighting the entropy, they embraced it, using their unique ability to exist in multiple states to guide the Void Eaters' transformation. The beings of pure entropy encountered something they had never found before, entities that could touch them without being destroyed. Director Blackwood watched from the safety bunker as reality itself seemed to bend and flow around the facility. The transformed pairs weren't fighting in any conventional sense. They were rewriting the fundamental laws of physics within their operational zone. "Record everything," he ordered his remaining staff, though their instruments could barely process what was happening. "This isn't just first contact anymore. This is the next step in evolution." Through their connection to the other pairs, Valerie and Theron could feel the pattern spreading. Each encounter with a Void Eater led to a new understanding, a new way of perceiving the relationship between matter, energy, and consciousness itself. Their creators hadn't built weapons, they had designed guides, beings capable of showing the way to a more stable form of transcendence. The job offer that had brought Valerie across the stars had been merely the first step in awakening abilities that had lain dormant in both species for millennia. As they worked to transform their supposed enemies, they felt their own transformation continuing, guided by genetic programs that were only now revealing their true complexity. The other sites are reporting similar successes, Theron shared through their link. The Void Eaters are responding to our guidance. They're learning to exist in harmony with normal spacetime instead of consuming it. Around them, the crystalline network continued to evolve, incorporating the new understanding they gained with each encounter. What had started as a research facility was becoming something else, a nexus point for a new kind of existence, where multiple forms of reality could coexist and interact. Valerie felt their shared consciousness expand further, touching minds across the galaxy. The transformation that had begun with a simple neural bridge was spreading, awakening new potential in every human and Lumini it touched. Their creator's plan was more ambitious than anyone had imagined. They weren't just trying to save reality, they were trying to help it evolve. 1 year after the first contact with the Void Eaters, the research facility had evolved into something their creators had only dreamed of. A living nexus where multiple forms of existence intersected and flourished. Valerie and Theron, their merged consciousness now permanently unified, stood before the transformed floating city artifact, watching as it displayed the changes spreading across the galaxy. The Void Eaters, once considered harbingers of destruction, had become partners in a grand transformation. Under the guidance of the merged pairs, they had learned to exist in harmony with normal spacetime, their entropy becoming part of a greater cycle of cosmic renewal. The last of the original 17 sites is online, Blackwood reported, his role having evolved from director to witness of something far beyond human administration. The years had left their mark on him, but his eyes still held the wonder of those first discoveries. Through their expanded awareness, Valerie and Theron could perceive the network of consciousness spreading across known space. Each merged pair had developed unique abilities, creating a diverse ecosystem of transformed beings that could interact with multiple layers of reality simultaneously. Our creators knew this would happen. They spoke in their harmonized voice that made the crystalline structures resonate. The job offer, the research project, the neural bridge, they were never about defending against an enemy. They were about teaching us to transcend the very concepts of separation and conflict. The facility had become a beacon, attracting others who sensed the potential within their own DNA. New pairs of humans and Lumini arrived regularly, drawn by the genetic programs awakening within them. Each transformation was unique, adding new facets to their growing understanding of existence itself. We're receiving signals from beyond the known galaxy. Theron's consciousness merged seamlessly with Valerie's as they processed the data. Other species, other pairs, awakening to their own potential. Our creators seeded these changes throughout the entire cosmos. Through the evolved artifact network, they could perceive the grand design. A galaxy-wide network of complementary species, each pair designed to unlock different aspects of universal consciousness when they finally came together. The Void Eaters had simply been the catalyst, the pressure needed to trigger these dormant possibilities. Blackwood studied the latest readings from their transformed facility. The energy patterns are stabilizing across all dimensions. Whatever reality itself is becoming, it's happening with a purpose, with a guide. The merged pairs had discovered that their ability to exist in multiple states wasn't just about bridging different forms of consciousness. It was about guiding the very evolution of reality itself. The Void Eaters, in their desperate attempt to transcend physical existence, had actually been following an instinct planted by the same creators. Every pair brings something new, Valerie and Theron observed, watching as another successful merger completed their transformation. Each combination unlocks different aspects of the genetic legacy our creators left us. We're not just changing ourselves, we're changing the fundamental nature of existence. The floating city artifact, now integrated into their expanded consciousness, displayed maps of potential futures, timelines where consciousness itself evolved beyond the limitations of single species or single forms of reality. What had begun as a mysterious job offer had become the key to unlocking the next phase of cosmic evolution. Director Blackwood, aged but still dedicated to documenting this transformation, asked the question that had been on his mind for months. And what happens when all the pairs awaken? When every seeded species finds their complement? Valerie and Theron's merged consciousness expanded, touching the edges of understanding their creators had encoded into their DNA. Then we become what they hoped, not just guardians or guides, but architects of a new kind of existence. One where entropy and order, matter and void, consciousness and energy all flow together in harmony. The facility hummed with energy as new signals arrived from across the cosmos, more pairs awakening, more species discovering their complementary partners. The transformation that had begun in this small research station was spreading, not like a wave of change, but like a flowering of potential that had always existed. Our creators didn't leave us a weapon or a shield. They realized their unified consciousness touching the deepest layers of genetic memory. They left us a template for evolution itself. Each pair, each merger, each transformation adds to the pattern. We're not just saving reality, we're helping it grow up. As if in response to this understanding, the artifact network pulsed with new energy, revealing yet more layers of their creator's design. The job offer that had brought Valerie across the stars had been the first step in a journey that would reshape not just their species, but the very nature of existence itself. The merged pairs, once thought to be humanity's last defense against cosmic entropy, had become something far more profound. Midwives to a universe learning to transcend its own limitations. And somewhere, in dimensions beyond normal perception, their creators watched as their children took their first steps into a reality without boundaries, guided by the very forces they had once feared would destroy them.